from 1-year-old to 18. Me and my sister spent every summer in Coruña, and these were the days of super deportes. The 90s for me were what made me a devoted lifetime fan. I feel so gallego. So my name is David Alperin. I'm 39 years old and I own Goose Barnacle, which is a concept store, I think I'd like to call it, of menswear, art, jewelry, sportswear. The style of my store is very Spanish, mixed with New York. So it's my two influences. So the Goose Barnacle, in Spanish is percebe, is a very hard to get seafood delicacy that for some reason grows on these very dangerous cliffs in northern Spain. Percebe, to me, other than being a representation of gallegos, is also a representation of one of the few last things in this world that even the Michelin restaurants can't get it, because it has to be eaten fresh in the community, in the neighborhood, in the puerto where it came from. It became this symbol of multiple things. It's really just the perfect analogy of the anti-internet and also the Galician roots, which are right here on this block. Brooklyn Heights back then was an immigrant community. This neighborhood was this weird mix of gallegos, Italians in Carroll Gardens. We had the Arabic community on Atlantic Avenue in the middle. My grandmother's life, it was really Cuban, Spanish, but it was always an immigrant community. In Galicia, things were bad. There was no work. My great-grandfather, Ramon Montero, came here on the ships and decided to jump ship at the Brooklyn port and stay. And he loved this neighborhood. He felt an opportunity to start a business and create a better life for his 2 kids and wife that were in Coruña. The Gallegos, I think, and Spanish people in general are famous for helping each other and staying close together. And it's not just your family, but it's your community. The Spaniards sort of like found each other in Brooklyn and created these weekend picnics where they would help each other start businesses.
I arrived here on April 15th, 1930, with my mother and my brother. My father had the business and he named it Long Island Bar after the hospital, so he wanted to give it an American name so that people that spoke English would come to the place, because this was strictly a Spanish neighborhood. After I was married, that's when he offered us, take the bar, I'm going back to Spain, retired, and I want to live there.
So in 2007, we convinced my grandmother to retire. She was 86 at the time and she was bartending all day, all night. So she closed the business. Today we are 28 of us, and it goes from 1-year-old to 95 years old. And we live like Spanish people. We eat dinner all together on Sundays. We were raised by gallegos. You know, these gallegos, like they taught us values that had to do with taking care of your family, staying close to your family, and that at the end of the day, when all else fails in life, all you're gonna have is family. One of the things that as a family, this tradition we started, it started with my mother and her brother and sister spent every summer, and I'm talking 2 months out of the year in Coruña. Me and my sister spent every summer from 1-year-old to when I was 18.
¿Qué haces, David? Arreglando la pesca.
Those summers in Spain were my everything. And I waited all year to get there, to see my friends in the park, to play soccer. When I was a kid was the 90s, and these were the days of super deportes. And you didn't realize it as a kid how special it was, and now it's soccer history forever. But Bebeto, Fran, Mauro Silva, Donato, This was my first Deportivo team that I got to know. They were winning La Liga, they were coming in second, they were contenders. And not only was this such an amazing thing for me as a fan, it was an amazing thing in those days for Coruña. Because to this day, the only people that know about La Coruña in America, they say because of Deportivo.
Para el Deportivo, campeón de Liga. Se abraza todo el equipo del Deportivo, se abraza toda Coruña.
The 90s for me were what made me a devoted lifetime fan. I will be with Depor if they're in 4th division. I don't care what league they're in, I don't care if they're losing every game. Like, I support Depor. Winning and losing doesn't matter as much anymore than the culture of La Liga. The only problem for us as Americans is I want them in 1st division so I can watch the games. And it was because of my summers in Spain, where every little boy plays soccer in the park, that I discovered that I had a talent, and I was very good at a very young age. All I wanted to do was play for Deportivo, right? That was my goal. At 22 years old, I sort of gave up. And I regret it to this day, but I went and got a job for a bank and decided, you know, I can't make this my career anymore. And then in 2000, I want to say like 7 or 8, a friend of mine from Brooklyn who knew I was a good player started a little team in Brooklyn with alumni from my high school. And they called me up and they said, we know you're still really good. Will you please like play on this men's team? So we started a little club team that grew and grew and grew and grew. So I said, can I rebrand the team as Goose Barnacle FC? I decided to use Deportivo colors as like a tribute team to the club that I love so much. I designed a crest or an escudo that had details that came from Depor's escudo, it came from a few other crests that I really liked. And ever since I made uniforms for the team's playing better. Around 2016, I noticed that the internet was having a big effect on my business. People were shopping online for their clothing. My sales for the first time were starting to go down. And it made me a little nervous. And I said, I need to do something. I need to make this place more exciting, more me, more community-based. And at the time, I was playing 3 nights a week. I was obsessing over Deportivo and La Liga. And I launched this bar that was inspired by the cafeterias of Galicia and Spain. Where I am in my life, this is how I want to hang out. The way Spanish people hang out in cafes. It's about your neighborhood, it's about conversation, it's about the local teams. Because I have to work and I don't spend my summers in Spain anymore, I started a new tradition, just for me personally, where once a year I look at the La Liga schedule and I find maybe a home and away that's close to each other, or 2 home games in Riazor and Coruña, and I plan a trip around those games. I turned those little trips into inspiration projects where I would sit in cafes like this and look at all of the details and see how they served food and how they poured beers. And I said, I want to replicate this as close as possible, from the corn nuts that they give you with the beer. I'm doing all of that. And some people understand it because they've been there, and Americans just think it's cool, but they don't realize that it's a culture somewhere in this world that they've never seen, you know? And now we're starting to use this as the place to watch games, to have coffees. Like, I'm seeing if I can make some New Yorkers that know nothing about La Liga into Depor fans. I'm not trying to make this for everyone, right? If I could have, you know, 50 regulars coming in and out, and that'll be great. But what I'm trying to do back here is a whole new project that's really about my family. My grandmother and my tias, they love coming here, and they're at an age where the doctor tells them, you have to take your daily walk. So now I'm their daily walk. Even though it's around the corner, they have to put on their jackets, and and they all hold arms, you know, and they walk down the street like this. So that if one falls, the other two hold them up, and it's adorable. I want them to be here as much as possible because no one tells the story like they do. I want to show them that this isn't just a pretend story. This isn't pretend at all. And it represents the family, the story, and the history. You know, this is really like how I grew up, how I live, and I'm trying to transplant it, right? Because I can't spend 2 months in Coruña, and since I realized that I can't because of work, I said I'm gonna try to bring Spain to Brooklyn.
¿Quién es la más
¿Quién
brava?
es la más brava de todas?
No, tú.
De
La más
nosotros.
fuerte. Yo.
¿Quién es? Dime. ¿Quién es? ¿Tú? No, ahora no. Antes todavía entraba Pepita y la mujer